God has turned my world upside down in this past year and messed up a lot of things that I thought I had figured out. I'm excited about where my life will go, and I can't wait to get started. My primary goal is to do nothing more and nothing less than God's perfect will, and I know that the next step will take place at Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Lindsay and I must have been in the second grade. I had gone over to her house for the afternoon, and if my memory is correct, I believe it was Wednesday before church. Lindsay's mom had fixed chicken noodle soup for us to eat, and I don't know how it got started, but one of us took a straw from our glass and started sucking the noodles up through it. We both drank an entire bowl of soup through a straw. Besides that, Lindsay is one of the most godly people that I know. She has Christ at the center of her life and does everything for His glory. She is dependable, faithful, and a great friend. I'm looking forward to spending another 4 years with her at Lee.
When Lindsay and I were in kindergarten, our class went to the game farm. After the tour, we were allowed to go down to the pond. I slipped on a rock and fell in the water. I was scared. Lindsay went into hysterics laughing at me. She could not control herself. Miss Onan was frantic trying to get me out of the water, but Matt Russell and Teresa Smith stood by and watched. And Lindsay kept laughing the whole time. To this day, she loses it when someone mentions the game farm.
Because our siblings are engaged, Lindsay and I have seen a lot of each other, and we have become good friends. One night at our house, a group of us played Team Scrabble. Lindsay and I were on the same team. We had words like it and the. The only high point words that we could come up with were inappropriate ones that she wouldn't want me to mention here.
Lindsay is steadfast and brilliant. She has shown me great study skills, how to be a leader, and how to stand firm in God no matter what or who comes against you. I respected her decision when she chose not to play basketball. I knew Lindsay's heart and that she wouldn't make a decision like this without first going to God. She has also been an outstanding friend and companion to me ever since kindergarten.
Lindsay is a terrific person. We've always gotten along so well until I became the dress code woman. And I made her wear a dress on chapel day. And look what has happened to her. You're welcome, guys. Woohoo!
I plan to attend Lee University with an undecided major the first year. I'm not sure where God is leading me, but computer design and drafting interest me. I'm grateful that I've had the last 4 years at Cornerstone, and I thank my friends for being strong and helping me through.
He started out quiet, but he didn't stay that way. He gradually warmed up to our class and was a colorful addition to the group with his wit and funny remarks. He has taught me that we have different gifts and that we need to use those gifts to the best of our abilities. Rather than being jealous of his athletic abilities, he has inspired me to do the best in what I do.
Josh, your potential is limitless. I'm glad you're going to Lee so I can see what God's going to do through you. You have a gift of friendship that I will forever cherish. I appreciate your willingness to listen, and I think I can honestly say you're one of the best friends that I've ever had. I'm glad that our siblings are getting married, so I know we won't lose touch. I love you, Josh.
It was almost the end of junior year when Josh and I got to be close friends. I wish we hadn't waited so long. Danielle and I would triple date with Stephen and Casey and Josh and Julie. 2 weeks before prom, the girls decided to go dress shopping. We guys went along hoping we'd at least have each other while they tried on clothes. The girls couldn't agree on where to go, so we all had to separate. After 2 hours, we met back together, and none of the girls had purchased anything. There was silence in the group for a while.
Josh is a great guy. The first time he spent the night at my house, we watched The Gladiator and stayed up till 2 in the morning. We have had some great times being on the basketball team, and I'm sure that there will be more to come. I still don't know how he puts up with me. Sometimes I think I drive him up the wall. We have had some interesting bonding moments. One I will never forget. It happened at McDonald's on a basketball trip about 10:30 at night. But that's all I can tell you. If you want the rest of the story, you'll have to ask Jaden, Danny, or Josh.
I'd like to be an assistant youth pastor at my home church and help with the youth praise and worship. I plan to play guitar and sing in a band where I can share my Christian views and express myself. I like to travel, write novels, and follow God's direction all my life.
I admire John's love and understanding for poetry and music. When he first came to Cornerstone, he carried a notebook full of poems that he had written. John is a creative writer, and I was proud of him when his work was published this year.
Most of the time he was quiet, but when he spoke, everyone was cracking up. The pickup lines were absolutely hilarious. John has an unbelievable gift in music and poetry. His artistic abilities will touch many people. I have no doubt about that.
John, get your driver's license.
John and I have been friends for life. Our parents knew each other for years before we came along. John has been a brother, a friend, and a confidant. We don't always agree. In fact, seeing John and me is like seeing night and day. He has always been there for me, and what we have you can't put a label on. He's beyond best friend. Best friend doesn't come close. I can't say this about anyone else, but I would honestly lay down my life for John. I'd give anything for him.
John served as my aide in 2 classes, art history and English. His ability in these 2 areas made him a natural. In English, he could teach poetry. In art history, he taught technique and style. He was a tremendous help and never complained. John, you were a fabulous aide, one I'll never forget. And remember, 2 sweet and lows in every cup of coffee, and double time it.
I will spend next year continuing my work as the praise and worship leader at Rivers of Life Church in Frankfort. Following that, I plan to attend Rhema Bible College in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I know that God has called me to worship in youth ministry, and I'm determined to walk out this call.
The past several years, I have seen Josh as a funny guy who is an awesome friend, and I still see him as that. But after a worship conference this past March, my view of Josh has changed a little. I now have the utmost respect for Josh as an anointed minister of God. I've known him for so long, and I had no idea that his well was that deep. I hope that for the sake of our generation, he won't let go of his gifts. They have touched me deeply.
5 or 6 years ago, I never thought that I would graduate with somebody I grew up with. Josh has made me feel needed over the past years, and I'm thankful for that. He has always encouraged me to be happy, and I can depend on him to give a gloomy day a smile. He has been a spiritual encouragement and example in my life. I know that we will be, as our parents said when we were babies, lifelong friends.
In kindergarten, Josh Lampkin and Jamie Metz kissed on the playground. It was so funny the way they squinted their eyes and puckered up.
I remember some special words that Josh said to me one day. He said, "Seriously, you can trust me." And then he electrocuted me. Okay, I forgive you, Joshua, if you forgive me, and you know why. Joshua is a wonderful, wonderful guy because he always knew just exactly what I needed to eat that day for lunch. And he took care of me, and he always knew when I was starving. God bless you, Joshua. I love you.
Josh Lampkin is always looking for a way to get out of class. So we have designated him to be our lunchtime taxi driver. And in this process, he has memorized the menus for McDonald's, Blimpies, Country Time, and Taco Bell.
There were no young men in my generation like Josh Lampkin. He is so focused in his calling and so clear in his ministry, and it is beautiful for an adult to see a young man who truly seeks God's work and God's mission in his life.
After I graduate, I plan to attend Rainbow Bible College in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'd also like to go to cosmetology school and have a hair salon with my father. I plan to marry and raise a family, and someday God is going to use me in young women's ministry. One thing I could say about Danielle is that she can make you laugh without even meaning to. I remember when she first came. She was so shy. One day she fell off a desk, and that kind of broke the ice for her.
I think I've had more classes with Danielle than anyone else, and it seems we have always sat next to each other. I've heard and seen her do some things that were hilarious, things that she's begged me not to tell anyone about. She has a love for God that I respect, and she looks out for the kids in our class.
Danielle has a love for people. Whenever you're going through a hard time, she will be there to see you through it. Many times I've gone to her with a problem, and I knew she would just listen to me. She always knew just what to say.
Danielle is like a lily among thorns. She is so beautiful. And when I have the privilege to watch her worship in chapel, it truly blesses my soul. And I know that her voice lifted to God is a blessing to Him. I believe that wherever Danielle goes in the next few years, it will be exciting, it will be satisfying, and it will be successful because God will seek to prosper her.
We all know that Danielle always looks beautiful. One day in her freshman year, it was very cold and icy, and people were slipping and sliding all over the sidewalk between the main building and the modular. As I looked out, along came Danielle, looking perfect as usual, wearing a pair of high-heeled, spiky boots. All I could think of was, oh Lord, don't let her fall down. With everyone else slipping and sliding around her, Danielle calmly walked to the modular, and all I could think of was those heels must have been just like little ice picks holding her up on the sidewalk. I know now that Danielle is just as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside, and in the future, wherever she chooses to walk, God will use that beauty to bless others.
I am going to Asbury College in the fall, and I will be majoring in biology. I then plan to go to the medical school at the University of Louisville. I believe the Lord has called me to be a family physician, so that is what I am following.
Our family has known Matt and his mom for years, and he and Lindsay have spent countless hours together. Before they moved to Frankfurt, I used to take Matt back and forth to school. One day when Matt and Lindsay were in kindergarten, they hopped in the back seat and buckled up to go home. As we were riding to town, Lindsay leaned forward and tapped my shoulder and said, "Mommy, can Matt be my boyfriend?" When I inquired as to how she settled on such a good choice, she said, "Because he loves God so much."
Matt is a good example that being quiet isn't bad at all. He was an awesome study partner, and Matt, I want you to know that I'll be studying the system. You've proven that hard work pays off because of the scholarships you have received.
Matt, I will miss you. You may be quiet, but you are really funny. You are such a sweet person, and you treat everyone fairly. God has placed such a call on your life, and I can't wait to hear and see what takes place.
Matt Russell is solid academically, emotionally, and above all, spiritually. God got a hold of Matt, and he has grown incredibly in this last year. Matt is one of the most responsible guys I know. If something needs to be done, he does it without question or complaint. Matt is an observer. He's quiet, but he probably knows more about the rest of us than we know about ourselves.
There are many words that describe Matt Russell, and all of them are good, but dependable comes to my mind immediately. One of our board members was recently bragging on Matt for all his work at a Kiwanis Key Club function. He was talking about how prompt Matt was, how hard he worked, what an excellent job he did. Matt could always be counted on in Christian living, too, to give serious thought to our discussions. Matt is deep water.
After I graduate, I plan to attend Kentucky State University to study nursing. I'll live at home and hopefully work in a hospital or doctor's office while in school. Someday I hope to marry and have a family.
Stacy, you are a great friend and I will miss you. You have a bubbly personality that lifts people's spirits when you enter a room. You taught me to talk country. I reckon it's hard telling how long it will take to get it out of my system.
I don't think they come any sweeter than Stacy. Her laid-back nature makes her a good person to be around. I don't think I've ever seen her bent out of shape about anything, and I like that about her. In the last couple years, Stacy has popped right out of her redneck shell and let her country colors shine brightly. It's hard telling how to put the memories into words, so I'll sum it up for you, Stacy. Austin Powers flew away with the camera. He went to Mississippi, but he'll be back when it's his turn to take a nap.
Stacy Tipton lives life to the fullest. I can't ever remember her being in a bad mood, and she finds the good in everything. If you laughed at her, she threatened to take you out to the flagpole to fight. It's hard telling what she'd actually do if we had a flagpole.
I like Stacy Tipton. She's creative, she's dependable, she's somebody you can really count on, and she's just a whole lot of fun to have around. Now, I've heard a lot of stories about Stacy working out at Flying J, and I think she's probably going to take over the whole place as soon as she leaves here. As a matter of fact, I think maybe in a year or two, she's going to own the Flying J, and after that, probably a whole chain of Flying J's all around the country. And Stacy, we'll always know when you're in town because we'll see you coming in that nice little shiny red Honda. Best of luck to you. Love ya.
Stacy doesn't seem to have too many cares and worries. Now that she's started to date, she's taking on different interests and habits. For instance, she'll come into class and tell everyone about how much mud was caked on those four-wheel drive tires as she was out mud running.
Tractor pulls, rodeos, four-wheeling, flying J, and wrestling. These are some of the things that come to my mind when I think of Stacy. One day she seems to be your normal teenage girl. The next day she comes in talking about tractors and big trucks. But with all joking aside, Stacy is one of the most dependable people I know, and she would volunteer to do anything for you, and she will do it right. I am planning on attending Lee University in the fall of this year. My major is undecided at this moment in time, but I'm praying for God's guidance in what He would have me to do. I hope that someday I'll get married and have kids, but that is definitely not in the direct future. I just want to be in God's will all of my life.
I've known Stephen since we were in the first grade, and his mom used to babysit me. I remember sitting by him at 6th grade graduation, and I didn't realize that he was having a low blood sugar. I thought he was asleep, and I kept trying to wake him up. Instead, he was blacking out. I was worried about him.
He's shown me how to be a leader in the past couple of years. He's shown me how to keep God in front, even when the distractions are out there. He's shown me how to be a good friend. He's shown me accountability. He's shown me how to shop for girls. Stephen is one of my closest friends.
God has blessed him in so many ways. His musical talents, basketball skills, excellent grades in school, and a heart for Jesus. I pray that God will increase these gifts and that he will continue to walk in God's footsteps. God has something great for him, even if he doesn't know it yet. He has been one of the best friends I have had all my life, and I thank him for being there for me.
Stephen and I have just bonded within the last year or so. It was interesting how it happened. We were on two opposite ends of the church, and we looked up and our eyes met, and we realized our hair looks exactly alike. Boy, don't I love his hairstyle. You rock, Stephen.
The memories are so many. For starters, the time we ate our entire dinner of chicken noodle soup through straws, or playing Oregon Trail on your dad's computer after school on Wednesdays. We've played many basketball games, but as we grew older, our competition turned academic. Just when we thought it would all be over, we go to the same college and register for the same psychology class. Only at Lee, you won't have your little math mazes. Oh yes, Mr. Steve, it's on. It's been awesome to see God reshape your life in the last year, and I'm so glad you'll be with me next year. I just love you, Stephen.
I'll be living at home while attending Sullivan University, where I plan to major in business. I've had many years of experiences in the areas of home improvements, but I can't say that's what my future holds. I would like to manage a big business. In the meanwhile, I'll be laying tile with my brother.
Zach has a not-so-inconspicuous sense of humor. I'm surprised he never got his mom to bake cinnamon rolls for all the teachers with labels that said, "You're my favorite teacher in the whole wide world." I'm sure that would have been persuasive.
Zach Myatt. The first word that comes to mind is hilarious. Zach has a great sense of humor and always had something to say to make the class laugh. Zach is a strong guy, and I highly admire him for the way he has handled the last 2 years. His strong will is going to take him far.
Zach and I sat next to each other in chemistry last year. We were so lost and didn't understand anything. We would compare our test grades and get some pretty good laughs from our answers.
I cried when he told me he was thinking of going to Texas Tech. I couldn't imagine him going 2/3 across the country. He's been a friend who was willing to jeopardize his future in order to save mine. We've shared laughs, heartaches, successes, and defeats. I guarantee we will stay close to each other. I'll put the farm on it. Zach, you're my best friend, and I love you. I plan to attend Thomas More College and play basketball there. I will be majoring in criminal law with a minor in education. It is my dream to one day come back to CCA and teach the first graders who would then be in junior high. It would be really cool to come hang out with them again.
This year, I really noticed that Zach has always been there for me if I needed someone to talk to. He always seemed to know what I was going through. The Lord has something great for him, and I pray that he will allow God to guide his steps as he goes off to college.
Zach has been there for me during the hardest year of my life. He listened to me and did his very best to understand. I just want to say thank you, and I love you, man.
Not everybody may know this about Zach, but when he was a freshman, he was one of the original founding FUBU brothers. He had the coolest clothes. He knew all the latest sayings, and women just adored him. One day, however, he kind of lost a little bit of his cool. We were in an art history class, and I said something like, "No homework tonight." All of a sudden, Zach jumped up out of his chair, ran to the front, threw his arms around me and said, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." I have to say that that was a very unique experience, and all I could say was, "You're welcome." However, when I think of Zach, the picture that I think I'll take with me is Zach out playing kickball with the kids, Zach with little boys wound around his arms and his legs. I think he really has a gift, and God is going to do great things with his life. Love you, Zach.
Most of my memories of Zach have to do with the basketball team. He was one of the 4 seniors this year, and without him, we wouldn't have done as well as we did. Zach's rebounding efforts not only helped us, but ranked him 7th in the state. In the locker room and in the van, Zach always did or said something to keep us laughing.
Zach's attractive personality will always have people near him, and I think that he will influence them in positive ways. Zach Stillwell is an overcomer. It wouldn't surprise me at all if God put him in a situation down the road to mentor younger guys. Zach will absolutely have a limitless influence on people, and I cannot wait to see how God chooses to use him. And besides all that, deep down inside, my mother has always wanted me to marry him.